Good morning, everybody. Take a seat, and we'll begin. Try and begin on time and end exactly at 9:30, as we always do. People would like to get here and then get to their employment, so we try and at 9:30. I'm Ross Sandler. I'm director of the Center for New York City Law and professor of law here at New York Law School, and I welcome you to our Center for New York City Law and New York Law School and this new wonderful building. Some of you had not been back to this and were amazed. We are very happy here. It's been 2 years that the building's been open, and the students love it, and we love it. It's a very large building, and it's entirely devoted to students. There are no faculty offices in it. We're still in the old buildings. These breakfasts are co-sponsored by the law firm of Greenberg Traurig, which has been with us for a long time, and Verizon as well, and most of all, our most loyal and long-lasting sponsor, Con Edison, which we're delighted to say they're all continuing this year as well. I'm delighted really to have Mike Rodnachano here. Mike and I have been friends and colleagues for a long time, working together at DOT in the 1980s, where he led the Traffic Bureau. He was a very exciting, innovative, very difficult to control traffic commissioner. He did many things that I only learned about in the last few years. He put signs up I never saw before. He was actually quite wonderful and led changes in that department that are still we're still benefiting from. He has a PhD from Polytech in transportation and engineering. He is now the head of the construction arm of the Transit Authority, which means he's responsible for the biggest projects the city has seen in transportation in many decades. And he's doing a terrific job there. He was willing to come and speak about those projects for us, and I'm delighted to welcome here Michael Rodnachano.
Good morning. I guess an unexpected introduction. I still do things, and I'm still tough to control, but hopefully in a positive sense. And today actually is a very special day for me for one reason that I will actually share. I arrived in the United States exactly today 41 years ago. So. So this is the country that I live the most, right? I'm glad to have the opportunity to share with you where we are with our mega projects, and I'm going to walk you through, particularly now that we are at a point that we're looking to secure additional funding for the capital program. The capital program for the MTA is an extremely important one, and we are looking forward to be able to, in fact, get the necessary money that we can finish everything. And when I say everything, to me, the mega projects are at the forefront. Let me just walk you through some of the things that we are providing for the region. We actually provide about 8.5 million transit rides a day, and that represents 30% of all transit rides in the United States. So that's pretty concentrated for that matter. And I was at a conference at the FAA. Were making a presentation, and when I looked at it, I said, "Wow, we are actually providing 4 times the trips that the airlines in the United States provide." So we are doing pretty well. The operating budget for 2011, $13.4 billion, and $24 billion in its current 5-year capital program that actually have been adjusted after we were able to save lots of money in different ways. We are the lifeblood of $1.4 trillion regional economy, and we provide 25%, at least today, of construction industry jobs. And that's really also due to the fact that a lot of private construction has slowed down significantly. And we expect to create 350,000 jobs in New York and spur $44 billion in economic activity overall. Now, over the years, we invested a lot of money in the system, and people will recall that we're not that wonderful in the past, and $75 billion were put in. And way back in the 70s and early 80s, we're a symbol of urban decay, and we are now able to provide riders good service, about 3.3 billion customers every year. Now, this is how it looked in the past. This is how it looks today. This is a station, and I actually picked one outside the city to just show that there was, you know, we saw a lot in Manhattan, but this was outside. This is how it looks today. So, at one point, the decision was made, and this was actually after 9/11, to invest money in our system and actually expand. This is the first time in probably 7 years that we have an expansion of our New York City Transit as well. It's 100 years since Long Island Railroad has done anything. So that, when people put together the numbers and they saw that about $17 billion plus, it was less at the time when they figured it out, maybe by a few billions, but who counts? I mean, you know. What has happened is that the realization that we will not be able to build these projects in the same fashion that everything else has been done. So in 2003, they created this company to oversee the system expansion, and the mission was to build, in effect, 5 projects. And this is in the order of their size: the East Side Access, 2nd Avenue Subway, the number 7 line extension, the Fulton Street Transit Center, and the South Ferry Station that today is already in revenue service, as well as manage a very large capital security program for MTA. This is, again, the largest transit expansion program today in the nation, and current project portfolio is, give or take, $17 billion. Now, let me start by actually addressing the East Side Access, because this is a project that has been on the boards for a gazillion years. It started way back, not as far back as 2nd Avenue Subway, but pretty much it was in the 90s. And really what we're doing there is utilizing a tunnel that was built at the end of the 70s, and this is called the 63rd Street Tunnel, and we're happy that that was in place when we got there. But then we had to connect it to Grand Central, actually under Grand Central, as you'll see about 140 feet below Grand Central, and then make the connections in Queens. And this is to the Harold Interchange, the busiest one in the Northeast, about 750 trains a day moving throughout. It includes New Jersey Transit, Amtrak, Long Island Railroad, it's called New York Atlantic Rail. That this is a commercial type enterprise that is within Queens. So we had to do that, and we have to do it. Still, we're doing that while trains are moving. So the need was really derived from the fact that Long Island Railroad could not meet the needs of Long Islanders, that if you put them together, they will represent the 3rd largest city in the nation. And the connection between them and Manhattan, that is the Midtown Economic Center, was extremely important. Long Island Railroad serves over 300,000 customers per day, and Penn Station is its only terminal in Manhattan. Now, that's actually North America's busiest train station. Operations shared with New Jersey Transit, Amtrak, about 61 trains during peak hours. So it's really overcrowded, and approximately 230,000 Long Island Railroad passengers are at Penn Station every weekday. That's a large number of people, and a lot of them actually or want to be in Midtown. And there is no capacity to increase service, both station, tunnel, and yard infrastructure limitations. So East Side Access is doing just that, addressing that. So a lot of studies have been done. About 50% of the people traveling to Manhattan want to be on the east side of Manhattan, not on the west side. So it made lots of sense to look at the development of a terminal and bring people into the Grand Central. That will allow an increased service, and when you start looking at the number of workers per square mile in New York City, I just plotted 33 census tracts with over 300,000 workers per square mile. Okay? And if you see it, it used to be all concentrated in the Wall Street area. It moved up into Midtown. And the work that we're doing right now there, that is bringing East Side Access, as well as the first segment of 2nd Avenue, actually relieves a congestion and allows people to travel better to that particular area. This is, as I said, the first expansion in 100 years, and increased the East River capacity by over 50%, and will support additional job growth around Grand Central Terminal and relieve congestion at Penn Station, and above all, commuter will save 30 to 40 minutes a day. That's, that's pretty good for people that need to spend a lot of time traveling. Overall, we expect that it will actually serve 160,000 customers per day. Now, just to give you some statistics, about close to 8 miles of new tunnels in Manhattan and Queens. Now, I bet you that you would not know that we have, in fact, completed the tunnels in Manhattan, okay? And in Manhattan, we have done about 5.7, almost 6 miles, I think about 5.7 miles of tunnels under the city streets, under Park Avenue, going all the way down to 37th Street. And actually, we kind of like it because it's a stealth project, unlike 2nd Avenue. So we have happy customers. That means the customers are in Long Island. They want to come to Manhattan. We don't disturb the people in Manhattan, and so that's pretty good. That will have, in effect, a new terminal under Grand Central. And if you ever shop in Grand Central or have a drink at a bar and a restaurant or walk around, you'll never know that actually 140 feet below ground, we are digging huge caverns. We are going to have 8 tracks, 4 platforms. There's going to be and you'll see a picture of that. And in the process, we built new yards and shops in Sunnyside, Queens. In fact, in order to do a lot of the work, we are doing improvements to the regional transportation, including for Amtrak and Metro North, in order to allow us to actually create this new terminal. The budget, it is, the way it's shown is 8.19, but includes actually regional development that are not part of our, when we report the budget, we don't report that, as well as 460 plus, actually I have it here, 462 million of rolling stock. So about 870 million is outside our project, but we are actually doing the work, because it is more efficient to do it in that fashion. What you see there is actually a section, and this is about, if you see Vanderbilt Avenue, the bottom of the mid-level mezzanine is 140 feet from the street. We have, this will have 17 high-speed escalators, very steep. Anyone that had the, I was actually asked and was fortunate enough to see the underground, will be able to actually see what we have done there. And we are operating and we're building that while Metro North is running. And that's an important parameter. We want to make sure that we do not disturb the rail operation, not there and not in the Sunnyside yards. This is just a shot of the upper level of the cavern. Just so you get a sense, we still need to dig down approximately 60 feet from the floor. So that gives you just a view of what would look like. And, work is going on there. We are preparing to blast here a set of high-speed escalators that they go down at an angle of about 60 degrees, pretty steep. So that's going to actually end up being a very interesting way of bringing people up. And we have done it actually into we changed the way we did business there by instead of going in and actually do the regular way of contracting. In this case, we did a design, build, maintain. That means we went out and through an RFP process, we secured a number of proposals, and we awarded a contract to Schindler that they will not only design and build it, but they will have a 30-year operation maintenance contract that is a structure against performance and all kind of both the stick and the carrot type thing. But we expect that to be different, and we actually got an incredible good price in doing that. But we had a lot of technical challenges, and if you look at Queens, this is a shot of the interchange in Harold. A lot of trains, bridges, things moving around, and basically the question was how we go from here to there, and it kind of sounds easy, but we had to tunnel under the interlocking. We have 4 tunnels that we are right now under construction, and they're very special because they are in soft ground. We don't have rock there. In fact, we have dirt and unknown matters that have been left around when people dump stuff in there. So we hope not to hit any skeletons in the process. For the moment, we're doing well. Okay, we had a lot of technical difficulties there. Just to make, we had to, because when you drill in rock, the tunnel boring machine, you operate normally. When you deal on the soft ground, the front of the machine is a pressurized environment. So in order to be able to service the head of the tunnel boring machine, by the way, the best business to be in if you're in tunneling boring is the people that each one of the heads have a lot of cutters, and you have to change them often. That's the best business to be in. If you dig tunnels. And in order to change them, you have to work in a pressurized environment. So what you do is you end up getting people, these machines that almost look like a space shuttle. You have a compression chamber, a decompression chamber, and then people go into the compression, and it is as if you work down about 100 feet underwater, and then they get to the right pressure. Then they have to be skinny to be able to go through rather small holes in front of the cutter and do the work and then come back. For every hour in, you have to spend an hour in decompression. So you understand that this is a very time-consuming process. So in the process of that, we decided that probably would be better to stop someplace and service it under normal conditions. That called for actually freezing the ground to create an environment that will simulate rock. Stop there so nothing falls in, and then go and do whatever you did under normal pressurized, free air condition. But what we discovered in the process is that, and this is something that it's kind of, we discovered it almost after the fact, is that if you stop a tunnel boring machine in a frozen zone, chances are it will freeze, and you can't move forward, right? So what we did is when the machines arrived, actually we created on the shield about, I would say, someone just told me about 150 nipples, holes in which we put some nipples that we now are able to, when the machine stops, we're putting a certain type of grease that will not freeze. I think the freezing temperature was minus 70 Fahrenheit. So we're not about to achieve that. So the idea was that when we put it there, you start coating the machine so you can restart it, and I'm happy to report that it restarted and is moving along. And we are probably this week, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, we will be basically finished with digging under the active rails. And that's, and to date, you know, if there are any delays, they're not for us. So we are, again, tunneling under the active rail. And then we have a location that under Northern Boulevard that we have to go under that we are going under an INDF line, and then above ground we have the N line. So we, in fact, have to go under, and just so everyone is clear, the ground is not that good, and there is a little stream going under. So we needed, again, to freeze the whole area, and the tunnel is short. It's about 120 linear feet. It will cost probably $95 million to go through that. It's just a very complex and tough thing to do. But then we get into Manhattan, and here we must blast. We do tunnel boring, and we have to blast. So we are under Grand Central Terminal, the country's premier rail terminal. We are under blocks of the most valuable real estate in North America, and we have to make sure that Metro North works. So all of these things actually created for us the environment of us being stealth. We went down 140 feet, no one knows we're there, and we are actually moving along pretty well at this point. I would like to go to the next project that is actually 2nd Avenue Subway, and everyone knows that it's supposed to go from 125th Street to Hanover Square, and we are now doing phase 1 that starts at 96th and ends at 63rd. Just for information purposes, I have to mention that there are 3 pieces of work that 2nd Avenue has built in the late 70s. There are 2 tunnels up north. One is from 99 to 105th Street, the one from 110 to 120. So we are using the 99 to 105th Street as tail tracks. So that saves us some money. The other piece will be in the future, and section 2, 3, and 4 will be for our children or grandchildren. And you'll understand in a moment why, how much it costs. So phase 1, phase 3 and 4, and then the total will be 8.5 miles, 16 new station, 1 renovated, and we have 2 services, Q and T. The Q is the one that will start now from 96. We'll make a right on 63rd. We'll go down to an unused tunnel on the Park Avenue, and we'll make a left and go down on the west side. So that's the section that we're building right now. This is a 4451, and it's $1 billion and connects to the 63rd Street Broadway line. And again, we're going to be 96th Street and going to Brooklyn via the Broadway line. But it will relieve a lot of the pressure right now on the Lexington line that is really oversubscribed. This is a nice way of terming that is really crowded. So the new tunnels that we're building is a new 3 miles. Some of you have seen that we actually completed the tunnel boring run, and we have done that a couple of weeks ago, and that was actually a dusty celebration. It was very dusty down there when they broke through, but it was really fun. And right now we are in effect about to put in the trucks and systems. We're under procurement right now, and the 3 new station will actually, the new station, we have 3 more contracts to go that will do the finishes for the work. The 63rd Street is being rehabilitated right now. because it exists, so what we're doing, we're actually connecting to that. The budget, again, is 4451, and it will stay that way, and we expect to open revenue service December 2016. We are on time on that one. That's a fact. The interesting part on this one is that anyone that knows the history, it started in 1929. I've seen the budgets, $230 million would have done the job in those times. Everyone knows what happened then, and there are a number of times that started and stopped, but it is one time that actually someone came up with a very creative financing tool, and this was in 1961, and I saw an article in the New York Times on that one. In those times, people were building nuclear fallout shelters. So someone figured out that we can apply to the feds and make 2nd Avenue subway a nuclear fallout shelter. It didn't happen, but it was a plan that had tentacles going into the East River. It was kind of a very interesting way they've done it, but that's something that it was just kind of one of those starts and that never took place. The benefits, really, Lexington Avenue line, reduced congestion, and when completed, this will carry day one, 200,000 weekday riders on opening day. So that's pretty impressive. And again, we're going to have the ability to provide transit choices for lots of people on the east side of Manhattan, and strengthen the connection between Midtown and other business districts. Again, this is a typical station. We hope to be able to actually build a little more modern stations. There will be more airy. We'll have ceilings that, in fact, will look more like the stations in Washington, D.C., someone that have been there, but hopefully without the problems that they have. This is the tunneling boring machine that came true on September 22nd, and after we done all of that thing, because the press reported, so I figured out I will give my 4-year granddaughter the opportunity to have something to write when she applies for college. So I took it down, to see this and take a picture, because the machine was named, people do not know, but tunnel boring machines are normally named after girls or women. And I had the privilege to name her after my granddaughter that was at the time under 2, so I figured out that that's really for her. So, I'm not sure I'm going to get to write it, but for sure she will. The thing that we have uncovered when I came there, what I uncovered, that people actually did not like us. Then I went and I walked around and I said to myself, well, no wonder. We're going to be there between 2006 and 2016, 10 years, 10 long years, and we're going to kind of open this, close that, open that. So we're building in front of people's living rooms. So that brought me to the real realization that we have to become better neighbors. We have to be more sensitive. Now, we still have to build. You can't have a construction without having dust and some other unpleasant things happening, but we do not have to do it in a way to upset people. So we went there, and we are still in the midst of a program to make sure that we're good neighbors. We're wrapping the construction sites. We're providing at corners, and you can see that at every corner now. We're telling people what stores are there, what corner is. But by the way, some of the, see, I didn't do a good job. I didn't put all the signs on street names. So with some streets, you don't know what street you are at, what corner. So now you know, because we're going to put in every corner this. And we have done things to make sure that we improved. We have, in effect, paid for resurfacing the road that we did not actually impact. But I discovered that I felt very much like Moses bringing the plagues on Egypt. I was the one bringing the plagues on 2nd Avenue. One year there were flies. It was for sure our problem. So, I can tell you lots of stuff, but I don't want to, some people may identify themselves with the problem. I don't want to create additional problems for myself, but it's really the fact that we are not paying attention to what we need to do brought us into this position. There is a total mistrust that exists between the public and government for whatever reason, right? And MTA, we are known to be insensitive, lots of stuff. I can have a whole litany of adjectives, not pleasant. And we need to gain people's trust. We need to actually establish a relationship with the neighborhood that allow us to do our job, because at the end of the day, everyone benefits. I can assure you that when this is done, anyone that has bought cheap on 2nd Avenue will be able to get a great return. But there is a long time to wait for that. So for the time being, we're trying to build in such a way to make sure that we're not going to impact people. And this is some of the things that we're doing there. We're trying our best, and one of the things that we have done, this is a challenge that we're building. Again, we plotted the density, population density, and this is supposed to be 100,000 residents per square mile. These are the zip codes. And out of these zip codes, right, what we have seen is that there are, in the United States, 6 other zip codes that have that type of density. 3 of them are jails. This is, but we are building in a place, in fact, unfortunately, that people feel that we're jailing them by building in front of their buildings. So that's an unfortunate part. The other part that we have a real problem is, this is a kind of I tried to give a section of what you can find underground. And these are power, cable, water, steam, gas. And by the way, in general, we don't know exactly where they are. That's a real problem. We had to relocate them. In many places up north, where we built a cavern, and this is some statistics on all of the stuff that we have. But this is actually a cavern that we built up north that is, in effect, we are actually enlarging it now to about 850 feet, 70 feet down, 65 feet wide. And in the process, we had to relocate utilities, put the sewers outside our slurry walls, then dig down. We have to brace it so we won't fall in. We had to hang all the utilities to the ceiling. Trust me, tough job. And we actually were pretty lucky not to have created too many problems for residents, in the sense that we have not interrupted service. Probably one exception was a gas supply to actually New York City housing development, that a worker turned off a valve that he thought was a water and turns out to be gas. So that does happen. We are working basically in front of a hospital, and that again, it's a tough thing to do without making noise. We are within feet from homes and businesses, and in fact, one of the things that we have done, and I don't think we have a picture of that, on 72nd and 69, we created what I call a muck house. This is a building that is quite massive, but it actually keeps the dust and the noise within the building. Because what we're doing is, it's not enough to dig. You have to remove the muck. That's a real problem. So we are taking it out with trucks, and that's a whole way of doing it, and it's all enclosed, so we'll minimize the impact on the community. Just to get a sense, when we do the when we did the work up north, and we're still doing, we're putting in slurry walls. The reinforcement goes, it's about 100 to 120 feet. So we dig in front of 4-story buildings that are 40, 50 feet tall, and we go down 120. And a lot of these buildings, by the way, have been built in the 1800s with rubble foundation. So we got to fix a lot of them in the process because of that. So we created the opportunity for better structures that probably, when this is all said and done, will be bought by someone, demolished, and turned into high-rise. So this is the type of utilities that we pull from underground, and if you look to your right, you will see the utilities that you find today underground. Mostly, you know, it just is as if you are opening a human body in the abdomen and you find all of these things going around, or just, they're more organized, though, in the body than there. I would like to move to a project that is actually very interesting. It is the number 7 West Extension, and we are extending it to the west of Manhattan. Someone asked me, he said, you know, so what's out there? I said, you know, well, gold, but the gold that is out west is real estate. We are really opening the opportunity for the real estate to be developed, and this is one of these transit-oriented development, or actually it's financed through a special district, and the city has actually funded all the project there to extend 1.5 miles, and we'll have one station at 34th and 11th. The budget is 2.15. Again, this project will end up on time. We expect to start operation December 2013. It's actually the advantage there that we had, no one lives there. So therefore, we could actually move much faster. They blasted, they hauled the stuff. It's a different environment. So this is more like when they build the I&D in Queens, where they're going through fields. No one was there, so they can do a cut and cover. This is actually underground, but this was done really very, very fast, and we were able to take advantage of a lot of stuff there. The new tunnels are completed. The system finishes contract was awarded, so this is our final contract needed for revenue service. And all underground structural work will be completed by the end of October. So we're very optimistic about the work that's going on there. The benefits really are very clear. Opening the west, the west part of Midtown, and our station is really state of the art. Eventually, we'll be connected to on the west side to both the convention center as well as the development going on there. We actually provided for a knockout tunnel to do that. So we won't have to come in and dig into something that has been built. At the beginning, we'll serve 50,000 customers. Probably will extend. And if you see, this is the purple line is the line that is being built. We are building it to 26th Street again for tail tracks. And then someone asked me why we stop at 26. I get money. It would be nice to have gone to 14th Street, but that's not necessarily always easy to accomplish. Budget always keeps constrained, and we value engineer things. That means we cut back. When developed, and I think that 2025 is probably optimistic, but we try to be optimistic. There is a whole new development that will take place on the west side. This is how it looks today. This is how I actually, I showed you how it will look before. I'll show you how it looks today. And 11th Avenue is in the middle, and that's where we are actually, the station is, and we are under everything. It's about 80 feet below. Let me move to something that is actually part of the Lower Manhattan. And in Lower Manhattan, after 9/11, all kind of things were decided to be built, and one of the things was this terrible station that was called Fulton and the Fulton-Nassau Street station was something that if you did not know where you're going, you would never know. Because they're zigzagging back and forth, and it was a terrible station to be in. And then, the realization was that we have 11 subway lines. We used to have 12 when W was around, but now we have 11. And they're all, in effect, not necessarily connected. So the thought was that connecting them together would make sense. And so it connects the 2 and 3 with an AC. The mezzanine was totally redone. Instead of going in a zigzagging slope, they're all straight. We actually we just opened one of them on the eastern mezzanine, and then we will build a transit center building that will be eclectic. The rehab, the 4-5, the R, the E connector, and then far out west, the number 1 that is part of actually on the other side of the Calatrava station, and that will connect with the Calatrava station underground. So in effect, you could go almost from river to river underground and have all these connections in one spot. The profile of the project, really, I'm saying something that is very important. We do not want just to build a station. Stations are all over the place. We are investing here $1.4 billion, and for this place to be just a station, it will be a pity. So what we want to do is to really do it's a transformative event here in which we want to create a great public space. We want people from the neighborhood, and remember, this is no longer a 9-to-5 neighborhood. It's a 24/7 neighborhood. The residential population doubled, and we want to actually be able to have people come there and use that, even if they don't take the train. So just in terms of transit, obviously improves interconnectivity. I told you all the numbers, and the budget is 1.4, and the completion is June 2014. Again, we are on time, actually, and we're looking to try to, if we can, beat that, but that's never an easy thing. And I'm saying that kind of hedging my bets here, but I know for a fact that it will be done in June 2014. We want to build a center that will be a 21st century type station in which paper should not be there to provide information. Today, if you have a shutdown or whatever on a weekend, you get a piece of paper that end up on the tracks probably or somewhere around. So we want to be able to provide all the information needed through an electronic media. So we will have in the station from many points of view. Let me just go through that. Right. A very eclectic place that will look beautiful, will be clean, will actually provide advertising through electronic media. We are combining art with electronic advertising. We will have at the same time all of the information providing on large boards. So it will be the type of place that will actually be what the 21st century station ought to look like. This is an Oculus, and there were many debates, but this Oculus brings light all the way down to the lowest level. And we have, in effect, 2 levels below the street level, and then we have 4 levels above that where the Oculus sits, and then there was some additional work on the back. If you see on the right-hand side, it goes up to about 9 stories. And it will incorporate together with that a landmark building, the Corbin building that sits at the corner of John and Broadway, that we are rehabilitating, refurbishing, and in effect, we connecting that to the transit center, so we'll be able to provide that interconnectivity, and we can provide additional retail. This is going to be a station that we expect to be maintained, whatever it's outside the perimeter of MTA transit. through a private a master lease or type arrangement in which all the areas that are outside the paid areas will be maintained in a different fashion. Again, looking to provide some innovation in the way we do business. This is what it looks today from inside. Actually, the thing that you see above is the Oculus as it's being built. This is a William Street station that we just opened. Again, invite you to go and look at it. Doesn't look like any stations that we have, and we've been able to incorporate lots of historical findings that there were in the area. So it looks really terrific. Now, challenges, money. Money is the first challenge that you have when you are in this business. Only the first 2 years of the 2010-2014 capital program have been funded. We have an approved capital program, but money only for the first 2 years. So we're now looking to, in effect, creative ways to get to, in effect, get our money. Okay, we have to be both innovative and pragmatic in order to get that. There is no desire on anyone's part to raise taxes or to give us money. And quite frankly, we don't print money. We cannot raise taxes. And the only source of revenue that is independent we have is through the either tolls that you pay on the bridges and tunnels or the fare. And there is no right now, and quite frankly, any desire to increase that. I think that there are tough times, and you don't want to do that at this point. So in that regard, we still need to finish the East Side Access and Second Avenue about $3.5 billion. We have gotten right now money from Federal Railroad Administration about $300 million to improve the yards and the Harold. So that's going to be part of this money that we need, and the rest will have to come in a different way. And we expect that we'll be able to secure that. And we made some presentation to the board last July, and we are coming back in November to the board to present a plan that we hope that will get approved by the board as to how we're going to finance the rest. Now, schedule, and I'm sure some people here noticed that I've not spoken about East Side Access schedule. The East Side Access schedule is now being looked at and rebaselined due to, in fact, the East River Tunnel upgrades. The fact that we need to, some people may remember that there was, I think, around Mother's Day and Passover, two events that there are trains, Amtrak trains, that actually derailed, and there were some problems. And at this point, the decision was made to, in order to get reliable service, that all of these 4 tunnels, and they are owned, by the way, by Amtrak, not by Long Island Railroad, will be rebuilt 100% rehab, and that will be done over a period of 4 years, and we'll have a lot of work going on there, and that will impact our ability to actually be able to build. The main reason is the fact that there are outages, and they need to, the trains must operate on a reduced right-of-way. And one of the things that we try not to do is impact service. So there is work at night, there are work on weekends, but again, there is limited, and we work around live rail there. So we need to have railroad protection. So therefore, many times we are also in competition with the work that Amtrak is doing, because Amtrak has to provide the protection for us. So we are now evaluating that, and we will be actually going back to the board in December, hopefully, to be able to identify what the new baseline or rebaseline schedule is. Again, the community impacts are continuing, and we are working to minimize that. They're always a concern. It's a personal concern because we need to basically gain people's trust that we care, and I personally care. So that's something that will continue. We heard from the community problems with air quality. We have monitored. We got some scientists to actually do. They took millions of readings actually, and I expect to get the results soon. In effect, at this point, my preliminary findings is that there are really no real issues. There are no health concerns, but I'm going to wait to see all the results before I will make the definite pronouncement. But what we have seen to date shows that we are fine. With that, I'm done, and I'm just open for questions.
Terrific. That was a terrific presentation. I just want to say another thing about Michael. He came to DOT in 1986 from having a very successful private consulting engineering firm, which is unusual. Left DOT to go back and even build that engineering firm in even a stronger private business, and then back in the government. That is unusual for a business person to go back and forth. Lawyers often do it, but business people don't do it. And I think what you heard in the discussion and his presentation is just how forceful he is, and the experience on the private side really has blossomed into the public side, and we're very lucky to have a person with that kind of experience. So questions, we have a few minutes, so let's just start over here with Charlie.
You've been in capital construction or large construction for over a quarter of a century, during which the digital revolution has flowered. And my question is, are you observing economies that the MTA is able to get in this project through the fact that field engineers have, handhelds where they can get access to drawings, that you've got communications that are much easier, things that 30 years ago might take a whole day to process or a week, now it's at everybody's fingertips. So are there any economies that the digital revolution is accomplishing for you?
To a certain degree, there are economies in the way we're doing business. But I must say that the cost, the premier cost that we are incurring is in construction. We are very efficient in the way we do business. Just so you understand, the MTA Capital Construction is a very frugal organization. I have 140 people managing $17 billion, and I'm doing it by utilizing consultants, contractors, and actually when we're done, they go home and other set comes on board. So we don't have to retain people that we do not know. Yes, but the major cost is in construction. And construction today, because of the economy, we're getting good bids. A few years back, in 2007 and 2008, the bids were just through the ceiling. And the cost of labor, by the way, it did not come down. The cost of labor is there. The thing that came down is the overhead and the profit of the contractors, and down they are managing it in a much more efficient way. We are managing it a lot. We're using a lot of the new technology to manage. We're using new technology to figure out how things can be built, because you can now do 3D very easily, and you can figure out how you're going to build something. So the answer is yes, but the real cost, that reduction that we have seen lately, have to do with less pressure on the market due to less work. So it's not good in overall economic sense, but we took advantage of it.
On this side, quick.
Thank you for the presentation. Richard Jordan, President of Concerned Citizens Speak on Gramercy Park. More access and better, obviously, equipment and faster rides should mean fewer cars coming into Manhattan. Have you been able to measure what the reduction in car usage over the bridges might be? Thank you.
No, I personally did not see that study, and the only thing I can tell you that my recollection is in the 80s, in the late 80s, we had 1 million cars a day coming in. And the last things that I've seen, there's still 1 million. So one can say that it was a reduction because you have an increase in activity, so therefore you have less cars coming in, and I think that that's something that is happening. But we have not actually been able to quantify that. And I don't think that what we're doing is, in fact, it will affect the people coming from Long Island a lot. So that's where we're going to see a reduction probably. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Dante Nicolau. I'm a student here at New York Law School. I have a question about the ARC Tunnel project that was canceled and then the proposal to extend the number 7 train to Secaucus Junction. Is that being considered? Because I actually think that's a much better idea than the original ARC Tunnel project. And you showed the slides there.
The city is looking into the extension. There was a task force that was charged with that task. I would say to you that at this point, there are no certainty one way or another what's going to happen. So, but it is certain that the ARC is not moving along right now. But regarding number 7, I don't think that there's anything.
Is there federal money that can be used?
No.
Let's build this side.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Michael, this is actually a follow-up to that kind of question. What is the likelihood of this station being built at 10th Avenue and 42nd Street?
41st, right? 10th and 41st, yes.
Yeah. The reason
We have,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm at UPS, and we have 3,000 employees at the 43rd Street building, and then FedEx has a facility there. And we would automatically have 6,000 people using the subway every day, just commuting to work.
Great. We have, the way we are designing and building it, we are building it in such a way as not to preclude a 10th Avenue station. The ability to build it, we can build it tomorrow given that we have the money.
Yeah.
So someone, maybe you guys can contribute or something, I don't know. But it's I have to tell you that
UPS
it's not
doesn't
cheap.
contribute to charity that
It's
much.
not cheap. We're talking about somewhere between probably about $550, $600 million.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Julian Osceola. I'm a student here, and I live off the G train in Greenpoint in the ever-expanding area of North Brooklyn. And I'd like to thank the MTA for their connection at the 7 and the G at the Court Square station. I was wondering if a similar proposal would be used for the Broadway G and the JMZ Hughes station, because now you have to use 2 fares to go between the stations.
I'm happy to say that I don't run the trains. So I can pass that along to Tom Prendergast, but I don't run trains, and I'm really happy not to.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jim Meyer, quick question. Is your PowerPoint available, the information?
I guess so. I'm going to refer to my director.
Hi, Robin Stevens. I'm a consultant. I'm curious about the cost performance since the latest, when these projects, the latest phase of them was originally conceived, and now, where are you on a cost growth line?
Okay. I will say to you that I came in August of 2008, and my first task was to look at cost and schedule. In general, and this is, I'm on record that when I re-baseline it, that the cost, the price tag that people put on projects when they're first conceived is highly optimistic, and the schedule is extremely aggressive. That means when the moon, the earth, Mars, and the sun line up, you may get that. So the point is that if you do want to have a very, so yes, we are higher than that, okay? But just to give you an example, I'm going to take the Fulton Transit. I think they figured out it's going to be done for $850 or 7. I don't remember exactly what it was, either 750 or 850. In 2007, and they will be done so fast that you can't believe it. So in December 2007, they got a bid that was double our estimate, and it could not be completed in 28 months, right? Because it cannot be. So the point I'm making is that We are actually, right now, I expect to be pretty much on budget. Actually, for sure, on 3 projects, we'll be on budget and on schedule. I have to evaluate the East Side Access impacts in the rebaselining, and we're doing that. But I'm staying on course with our budget as well as schedule. That was established in July 2009, and quite frankly, we're not going to deviate from that.
Last 2 questions on.
Okay.
Sure. I understand what you're saying about the cost, the aggressive costs, and also the complexities of the projects, but can you address why construction efforts cost so much in New York City as compared with, say, European tunneling efforts or even Asian?
It's called work rules. I'll give you an example. Tunnel boring machines. The Europeans use 8 people per tunnel boring machine. We use 25, and I'll stay at that. It's not how much you pay them. You pay them the right amount, okay? In Atlanta, they use 11 people per TBM. In Seattle, it just, our work rules are much more complex.
Hi, George Diaz from the City Council. The first question I have is, do you have a list available of the contractors that are being used for these different projects? Part of that is I'm asking is that I had heard it was a company that was, I believe it was Parson Brickenhoff, that had a contract with the 7 extension, and I wanted to find out if, from what I've heard, apparently they were told that their service is no longer going to be used or something of that effect. So I wanted to
That's
find
news
out.
to me.
Okay, so I wanted to find out information about that to confirm. The other question I had was, I had also heard that recently, I believe it was some federal money that came in for construction to possibly build additional stations along the Metro North line going into the Bronx. Do you have any information for that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But let me assure you, we have lots of contractors. It's available. This is public information. So if you contact Ms. Kwan, she will be able to provide it to you. And quite frankly, I heard nothing of the sort regarding Parsons Brinckerhoff. So I think that you should totally discount that.
Good.
Okay.
Very good. We're going to, this is, I love this presentation. I love transportation, I love public transit, and I can't tell you how reassuring it is to see somebody like Mike Radnachano willing to take this up, and when he's done, he'll have left an enormous legacy for all of us. As we typically do, we always like to give to the speakers a product of the scholarship of this law school, and I always try to make it vaguely relevant. And I didn't have one, so I went back to something that I had been involved with, and David Schoenbrod is a professor here 30 years ago. And we wrote something called the Transit Issue on New York Affairs, and I went through it. There's some charts here which you'll love. Every chart concerning the New York City transit system was going down. Every measure, ridership, bus breakdowns, subway breakdowns, everything was going down. And this was the period when things started up, and you're standing on great shoulders of other people who've built this, and this was a reminder of just how far we have come, and we really appreciate it. We welcome you. We'll see you at the next breakfast.